Okay, friends, this is going to be just a quick little reminder video about our 3 very basic hand sewing stitches. So the most basic of the basic hand sewing stitches is your running stitch. If you are embroidering, this is going to be called a straight stitch. You're just going to go up through the fabric, down through the fabric, up through the fabric, down through the fabric, up through the fabric, down through the fabric, and all the way around, just like that. Running stitch is very good for if you just need to get 2 pieces of fabric together. If you make long loose stitches, it is very handy for putting something together very quickly if you just need to see if it will work and don't want to spend all the time sewing it together super perfectly. That is called basting. So once you have determined that what you're sewing together is actually going to work, then you will want to stitch it together properly. But basting something together is a very good way to test it before you spend too much time on it. So I'm going to show you this in the fabric as well, so you can see what it looks like in real life. So just like you had, I've got my needle threader and my needle and my swatch, and I'm going to take a couple of running stitches up through the fabric, down through the fabric, up through the fabric, down through the fabric. Now, a thing that you want to keep track of is you want to make sure that you're pulling the thread tight enough that you're not leaving loops behind, because if you're sewing something like a stuffy and you leave loops behind, that's going to leave a hole in your seam that the stuffing can just kind of poof out of. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to be leaving loops and holes. The other thing you don't want to do is do the opposite. You don't want to pull it too tight because it just crumples things up, right? So you just want to pull it until the loops are gone, and then you're good. So when we set our needle down, we always set it in the pin cushion pal, right? Not on the table. All right, the next basic stitch is the whip stitch. And you can start coming up through the fabric or you can start going down through the fabric. It doesn't matter. But whichever direction you start in, you're going to keep going that direction. So instead of going up and down, you're going to go up and then up, around the edge, and up, around the edge, and up. And on this one too, make sure to pull until the loop is all gone. Up, around the edge, and up. It should end up looking a little bit like a candy cane with a nice kind of spiral looking edge there. This is a more decorative stitch. It uses a lot more thread, but it also pinches the edge together a little bit, and if you have a fabric that is likely to fray, that means a fabric that is likely to start falling apart on the edge, this will help stop the fabric from doing that. So get my needle back from my pin cushion pal and around the edge and through the fabric. See how I pulled too hard and it crumpled everything up? So sometimes if your little candy cane loops are going the wrong direction, you can just kind of give them a little wipe and kind of wipe them so that they're facing the direction that you want them to go. Or you can not worry about it and just let them sit the way they want to sit. That's fine too. Oops, I almost set that down on the table, didn't I? Pincushion pal to the rescue. All right, so for the blanket stitch, this is the one that we've been drilling, so you guys know the chant. Down through the fabric and up through the loop. Down through the fabric and up through the loop. The thing that you need to watch out for is not to let your loop twist before you put your needle through it, because that ends up looking not so pretty, huh? And it makes it hard to pull this tight. So down through the fabric and up through the loop. Now there's another way to think about this. You will end up doing essentially the exact same thing, but it might help some people to just leave that loop hanging off the edge and pull the needle straight through the loop. So I've got the loop hanging off the edge there, and then I poke the needle down through the fabric, and I reach through the loop to grab the needle. This is honestly the way that I usually do it, but often breaking it down a little bit helps people learn it better. So that's two ways that you can think about working a blanket stitch. Now a blanket stitch is, if you've got good, better, and best, the blanket stitch is the one that is really going to keep the fabric from falling apart at the edges. So if you are wearing a t-shirt right now, you can turn the hem of your t-shirt inside out and look at it, look at the seams, and you will notice that your t-shirt is sewn together with something that looks an awful lot like a blanket stitch. That is a stitch done by a particular type of sewing machine called a serger, and it will keep the edges of fabric from fraying or curling up. And if you're hand stitching, the blanket stitch is what you want for that. It's also very pretty looking, and it holds things together very nice and closely. It gives them a lot less space to move around. Oop, my thread is trying to twist up. So there are your 3 basic sewing stitches.